Oopsie. Okay, so who would like to share before I pick on you? The reason we apply all of the content to ourselves first, because when we apply it to ourselves first, it then becomes easier to apply it to the person that you're helping as you then understand the process. Okay, who would like to share? You can share any one of the questions that you are moved to. Sandra May, you're the only person on my campus site that introduced yourself. Thank you for taking the time. Other campus students, please go and introduce yourselves. I do read your introductions and I am taking the time to respond to each one. Sandra May, talk to me.
Okay, I will share question about my answer to question 4. To just give a brief background, I studied a year at CPUT, and with such a big university, it kind of everything gets lost, and a lot of lecturers have so many students that they don't focus on just making sure that everyone is up to date and catch up, and they sort of lose passion because they've just got so much going on.
Right.
And I would definitely say at Cornerstone, all the lecturers are so passionate about their work. All the lecturers that I have, they're so passionate about their work and they support their students so well. So I think that the lectures have really impacted me. It's just very, so it's just very different. So it's a new experience for me and I'm really excited. I am overwhelmed. It's a lot of work, but I'm excited.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. You make me emotional when you say that, because I was a Cornerstone student, undergrad, postgrad, and that's what I received from my lecturers. And so I'm really just passing on what they have passed on to me. And the student-lecturer relationship should not be purely academic. If so, we're missing something. Someone said it in their introduction that being a teacher is not just about offering the theory, it's about helping our students. So thank you so much. Anybody else? Jacqueline, go ahead. You're gonna have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi, Taryn.
Hi.
Number 2.
Yes.
Number 2. So with living in Thailand, I'm gonna just do a general though, not on friends. It's like what we all have, you know, we don't actually realize how lucky we are. I know we have a lot of issues in South Africa, but we are privileged with the, you know, what we have with regards to like the schools and technology and the resources, everything. I mean, there's so much poverty here in Thailand and with like the families, and they don't actually interact how we interact back home with our families. You often, it's really, really different. Cultural wise, there's like no affection and no, you know, emotion really. They don't like confrontation. And I know with us, we are very confrontational.
Yes, yes.
Not in a good, you know, sometimes in a good way, but they really, really don't like it. So it's like really different living in a country with such different cultural views and like the economy, everything.
So
like I said, I know we have a lot of problems back in South Africa.
Yes.
But we do have a lot more compared to a lot of countries.
And it's hard to imagine when you say it's worse than South Africa. One can just imagine that kind of extent and how how all of those patterns of learning, which are culturally based, must affect children as they go into relationships and adult life and marriages.
It's very different.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very different. Like you see with, I worked at a education center, and it's like we do a lot of like group activities on the weekends and all that type of thing. Like the parents, it's like their opportunity to dump them, so they go and do their things. The kids are not with the parents or anything at all. They get home 8, 9 in the evening, They do extra lessons, extra classes.
Liefie,
Obviously, the ones that can
pop sê en
afford
ek
it.
weet nie enigiets.
Yes.
But
Pops in a
it's
burger.
like, yeah, there's not like we have our contact with our families back home. It's nothing
Right,
like that.
Right. And I think
Nothing.
what they are doing is really just perpetuating what they have learned. So they know nothing different.
Yeah,
Which is why we need to be awake.
exactly.
We need to be awake as parents. Oh my word, I think I just became my mother in that moment. And I remember what that feels like when that was done or said to me. So, but not everybody's living this world awake. And so our role as helpers is to begin to awake from your slumber. Go ahead, Nika. Thank you, Jacqueline. And great. I'm just so impressed that you're joining from Thailand. Thank you. Nika, you were saying? You were just agreeing.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, your audio is breaking up a little bit. I want to actually connect with that and answer number one, which is interesting now because of what you're saying with the kids in Thailand's connection with their parents. I thought I had quite a okay childhood until I realized some of my big issues are because I grew up with a mom. I grew up thinking that somebody's first response will always be tense.
Wow.
And somebody's first response will always be negative, and that's impacted a hell of a lot on my personality. And a dad that believed that if you, and I love my parents dearly, but if you say nothing, then there is nothing. In Afrikaans, it's say niks, dan is dan niks. So he would say, we're not going to discuss it, and then that would be his belief, as that's how he grew up, to that, then it's going to disappear.
Thank you for your vulnerability.
So it's very interesting to think of that I actually had a connection with I had a connection with my parents, but I don't know if that did me well either.
Yes, but bravo for being able to identify how that parenting style has impacted you, and so you're on a mission, obviously, to change some of that.
Absolutely, I just see it. I live it every day in real life. How all of my courses and research and books have changed my toddler and my connection, and I feel I want to put it on billboards. You know, I just feel, how come you don't get this at birth in the hospital? You know, this information.
I'll join you on that mission. Very passionate. Thank you for your vulnerability in sharing that story. Was it Sky, and then Offense? Sky, you had something to say?
Yes. I just wanted to share on number 3. Think of how the Cornerstone community has affected you. I had a very rough high school where I hated going to high school. Every single day was an anxiety attack for me, and I didn't cope in high school, and I never, how do I put it? I always felt alone during high school, and as if no one really understood me because I was so secluded. But coming to Cornerstone has like really changed that perspective for me. Whoa, sorry, I'm getting emotional now.
No, I'm emotional with you. That is so beautiful. Emotions are not a bad thing, and neither are tears. They are a good thing.
Oh.
Thank you.
But yeah, Cornerstone has really made me feel like accepted and included. Yeah.
I'm glad my video is off because you have me in tears. Sky, thank you so much for sharing what was both painful and has now been a place of joy. I think if we were all honest with ourselves, come and listen to my one-woman talk. My high school and teen years were really rough. And it was at Cornerstone Institute that I discovered I had a voice and that my voice had value. So you have value, great value. Offense. Go ahead. Am I saying it right? I hope so.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So my name is Offense, and I'm from Pretoria. It's my first time attending this live. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's my first time attending the live session. What I did is that I watched the pre-recorded one last week, and I'm gonna answer number 4. For me, going through that pre-recorded Zoom lecture, I found myself reflecting a lot. I found myself I felt like I was in a therapy session, you know, and more than anything, therapy is so expensive in this day and age, and we all have so many issues that we're still battling with. So to find myself in class and feeling like I'm in therapy, I made it a point to
Yes,
I
yes.
made it a point to attend this week's Zoom
Lecture,
lecture because
right.
the sharing does help, and really it also encouraged me and inspired me to look into studying psychology after completing my PGCE, because this is really interesting for me.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I think as teachers, this module is really an asset. It's an amazing tool that you can add to your tool bag of teaching skills, because in your class is not only a person who's come to learn. In your class is a student who comes from a specific family system, who comes from a particular environment, who has been raised in a certain way, and that impacts learning. And so you have to be able to understand the student more than just the homework and the teaching that you're giving them. Matthew Denton, go ahead. Matthew raised his hand. Nombosa, who else raised their hand? There's lots of raised hands, but nobody's talking.
Oh yes, I raised my hand.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi everybody, I'm Nombuso. So I'll share on number 1.
Yes.
Because each child is born into a different family with unique culture, it also depends how we spend our free time and beliefs about education. So I've been taught things that exist and true in my culture and that I cannot change at all. For example, like I grew up knowing that we do believe in our ancestors, while some cultures regard them as demonic, you know. So everything I do regarding my culture or belief is what I was raised with or being taught. There's nothing I can change. There's nothing I can do as long as I live under my parents' roof, you know.
Yes. Nombosa, thank you so much. Every year I get a student with your story. And how has that impacted you choosing, well, you're obviously doing teaching, but there's psychology. And I know that sometimes in your culture, psychology and counseling is frowned upon. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I think perhaps just be in a space where you just learn as much as you can and try not to impose what you're learning onto your family. So don't go in there and start psychoanalyzing them, because they have their own journey that they would need to travel. Lauren Dempsey, one more. Go ahead, Lauren Dempsey.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to answer number 2 about friends and the skills that was especially for me last year. I actually came home after living abroad for about 3 years, also teaching English. I was in Vietnam, and my dad had been battling cancer for about 5 years, and I actually came home in the beginning of last year for a holiday, and it turned out it had spread really badly, and we actually lost him just before Christmas. Sorry, I'm getting emotional.
You lost your dad.
But for me, yeah, sorry, I didn't think. I'm laughing as well, but I'm like, I felt like it was just on my heart to share today, because I really learned when you say you can't thrive in isolation.
Yes.
And for me, community literally pulled our family through the whole of last year, even despite lockdown and everything like that, the way the church stepped in and actually brought church to our house when my dad could no longer go, you know, and friends that really impacted me. You realize some people during the loss of someone, you really, some people just don't know what to say. So they don't, you know, they don't say anything at all. And that silence can, you know, and like some friends they just showed up, you know, and I think that's it, just sitting, and not everyone has the words. And really good advice a good friend said to me, you know, is to categorize friends into groups, and don't write people off for not being able to say things or be there for you, but have friends that will be there for just taking your mind off something, or friends that will literally just you can categorize those friends or will be there for listening, and they're good, you know, maybe good at for giving advice and stuff. But I think I just really community and friendship and everything means and like you said, investing and making time for people that benefit your life. So that's it from me.
My deepest empathy to you, Lauren, and your family. And although I can hear that it's very painful and rightfully so, still painful to speak about it, I sense that somehow it's brought relief to speak the words of pain, and to know that you're not alone. And you are so right. When we place expectations on someone to be a certain way, we lose the unique thing that they can offer you as a friend. Not everyone has the skills. People grow up in homes where, like Nika said, you're not allowed to talk. So they will then, maybe their knee-jerk reaction is then to distance themselves from Lauren because I don't know what to say to her in this time of pain. And so see people for that very unique value that they bring into your life, because there are other friends who have been able to empathize and be there for you. Thank you for sharing. Matthew, one more and then we move on.
Okay, sorry about that. So I also want to talk about number one. It has a lot to do with what Nika said. And I was raised in a house where I never got physical love and very little emotional love. And I was always criticized, everything I did, and I was always compared to other people. And I've actually, the way I grew up, I hated people in my space. I didn't want hugs or anything like that, because I felt like that's not what I want. And today I'm a man who actually, I love physical love. Like I really need that in my life. And it's actually, all of these things has made me very self-critical, and I'm trying to unlearn that behavior.
Yes, unlearn. I love that. Thank you for sharing so vulnerably. It's always so beautiful to hear a male voice in a vulnerable space. And I think, Matthew, our boys need to know that it's okay to talk about their feelings. Our boys need to know that it's okay to cry. And so you, Matthew, your experience will not be for naught, because you'll be able to help another young man in your helping profession. Thank you. Okay, so moving along, we're almost done. So what then is a systems theory? It really is where it looks at reality as, it doesn't look at reality in isolation. It looks at reality as being complex, and the characteristics of these systems underlie the process. So systems theory can help you understand an individual who is perhaps displaying really complex behavior. And now I don't want to go into this week, but I want you to go and do the week 2 activity lessons. I want you to look at what a system is, write down the characteristics of a system in your own language so that you can understand it. And then next week we will discuss it in greater depth. Can you still hear me? Okay, so what does systems theory have to do with helping? Why do we need to know about systems theory if we're here with counseling and life skills? Because, guys, we will not be able to understand the beggar at the robot, the mother who begs with her child, a scene that causes me great emotional pain. We will not be able to understand these individuals if we don't understand the systems from which they have come and the systems which have impacted. Am I breaking up? And the systems which have impacted their lives. So did this young man decide that he wanted to grow up and be a beggar at the robot with a cardboard sign in his hand? Did this young mother have a child and her dream for her child was to sit with her at the robot? No. There was something in the system that perpetuated them to, this is the only way I can live. Where did they get that idea? What relationships were failed? Where did they lose their sense of purpose? How did they lose it? And so we cannot understand someone without understanding the system from which they came. Who was able to view the trailer that I sent you?
Yes, I did.
You were very powerful,
Yeah.
right? You don't really have to even.
It was
powerful.
Speechless.
Yes, I saw the movie. I went to the actual movie, and I was in tears. But what made me even sadder, and I was doing some research last night for this lecture, is that since this movie was made, because this is why Ellen Pakis decided, she's a social activist at the moment, she wanted the story to be told and she wanted to help other mothers and young men or women who are on drugs. Do you know that little or nothing has changed in the systems? And so if you watch this movie, I encourage you to watch this movie. It's highly provocative in its sensitivity. But what angers me is that nothing much has changed. And that goes back to our conversation, Nika, that because it's just our drugs is a root cause of a system.
Absolutely.
We have to mention the apartheid system. We cannot live in South Africa and not acknowledge the destruction that a system of segregation caused to communities. And so,
Sharon, is this movie, can teenagers watch it?
You'll just have to check the age restriction, but I would be I'd be wary. I think perhaps 18.
I feel like sort of the kids need to watch it to understand.
Yeah, I had to close my eyes at certain points, but that's because I'm a really sensitive viewer. But if you're a mother, this will hit home, and you're left asking yourself, if I was Ellen Pakis, would I also choose to kill my son? And if you go to Ellen Pakis' story, this woman, this mother, was sexually abused when she was 4 years old. She now grows up, married, has a son, and then is physically and emotionally abused by her son. So we need to understand her act in light of the system. What really struck me is that Ellen Pakis, during the movie, there was an offer for her to stay in an hotel while the cast was able to film in her home. She chose not to. She lives in the very same home. The room in which she killed her son, she's turned into a little office where she's able to help others. So do yourself a favor, go and watch the movie, because it is a prime example of how a legal system, a court system, a social system, a governmental system, a family system has failed. And so this is why it's so important for you to understand why our system impacts someone's life. You are able in your assignment to use any of these wonderful examples that I'm giving you. You can use the family as a system, you can use the movie, you can use Cornerstone, you can use Eskom, which is a system and how that has debilitated flourishing. So in closing, grace. What is grace? Grace is something that we don't deserve. Did Ellen Pakis deserve grace? Because she's a free woman right now. Her attorney thought that she deserved grace. the judge thought that she deserved grace because they took into context, they took into consideration the system from which she came. So are there some people who do not deserve to flourish in community and in relationship? We answered this question last week. Does the guy, the robot, does he not deserve to flourish? Does he not deserve to be in relationship? And if you believe that he or she is not worthy, what makes them not worthy? And I ask you to be very honest with yourself in this course. If you're struggling with that, that's okay. If you're struggling with having empathy for a killer or a rapist, that's okay. That makes you human. And that's why it's so important to look at ourselves in the mirror so that we can increase our levels of empathy. So we have all received grace at some stage in our lives. Alcohol was a huge problem for me in my 20s. I used to drive home. It's no longer a problem. I used to drive home under the influence of alcohol. And I realized that the only difference between myself not being arrested or killing someone while driving like that was grace. So the skills that you are developing in this course and will develop is not so that you can earn more money. I sincerely hope not. Your focus is to benefit society, correct, Nika? Your focus is always first the human being.
Are you at the gate?
Jana, no. Education is a powerful tool. You need to use it responsibly. You cannot use it to judge someone else or to decide that they're not worthy of grace. So you need to go out into the world and you need to be very present. And I hope that as you go out into the world and you engage your friends and your family, that you begin to look at them through the eyes of grace. Because when the rapist and the murderer walks into your counseling room and into your helping room, it is grace that you're going to need to call upon. And so outside of being helpers, you are grace givers. That's what you are. Grace is the face that love wears when it meets imperfection. And you are going to meet imperfection in this profession. Are you ready to meet it? And I would say that a huge part of your readiness will be determined on whether you have met your own imperfect self. Those are my closing thoughts for today. Do you have any thoughts? I will convert these and then I will upload it to today's lessons. There has been a request for me the lessons available earlier. I will do so. I will do so at 9 o'clock on a Thursday. You can work through the content. You can do the readings ahead of time. I usually upload readings on a Monday already, readings that are not in the prescribed book. So you can prepare. Just remember that the content on the lesson is different to the content on the Zoom lecture. What I choose to discuss on the Zoom lecture is always relevant to assessment. What I choose to discuss on the lessons enhances your learning, and you can also use from that content to use in your assessment. Are there any questions at this stage?
Sorry, Taryn.
Don't be sorry. Don't start a sentence with sorry.
Okay.
Okay,
Michelle just asked.
Yes, I see that. Oh my.
Chat. There you go.
How much grace? Thank you for letting me know. Can you give if you've been given so much already? Wow. Would someone like to answer, Michelle? Because there'll be diverse responses in terms of where you sit.
I think I would like to say something about it.
Sure.
I personally think that grace has its limitations in some sense, to the fact that it mustn't start eating at you.
Nice.
So you can give as much grace as you want, but the minute it starts affecting you and who you are as a person
Nice.
and your emotional state,
Yes.
I think that's when you need to learn how to control it and to draw back a little bit.
And that's why later on we will learn about how to put up boundaries, Michelle, as helpers. We need to have boundaries. So I would not say, if you're speaking from a faith-based point of view, someone would say grace needs to be infinite. But in the context of helping, we also need to be assessing our clients all the time and go, well, are we making progress? Is this relationship becoming abusive? Is this becoming dysfunctional? So the concepts you are learning is it's not the do and the die, or we start off from this space of grace, because you cannot be a helper if you're not a grace giver. But through the process of counseling and building relationship with your client, you obviously need to discern, okay, when is this now bordering on, what's the word I'm looking for? I think you know what I'm trying to say. But how is this no longer helpful? Is this still helpful for my client? Are we nearing his or her goals? Then we need to look at what that means. But grace is our starting point. Giving our clients the benefit of the doubt is our starting point. But I think, Michelle, you're asking a little bit more now in terms of, you know, is someone taking advantage of me? If someone is perpetually taking advantage of me, how much more of that should I be taking? Correct? Michelle, you still there? Can you hear me? Zahida, where do you find the assignment? So Zahida, on your right, you've got a module outline. Click on the module outline. Everything is there. There's also an assignments tab. Assignment 1 is not open yet, so you won't see it. But if you want to know when your assignments are due, go to the module outline. I did send an image in the group chat. Zaida, I sent the image in the group chat on WhatsApp in terms of where to find week 2. Okay, is that it for everybody? Anything else? As the lecture made sense, please tell me what you, just in our last 4 minutes, has the lecture made sense to you? Has the content made sense? Oops,
I just want to thank you again, Darren.
Thank you, Nika. I think I sent the wrong message to, it was supposed to be for Michelle, not for Jansen. Okay. Okay. Leonie, please send me a...
I also want to ask something about the... Taryn?
Yes, go ahead.
I see people are sending their numbers, their WhatsApp numbers. I sent mine about 2 weeks ago, and I still haven't been added to the group.
Did you send it to me? Did you send it to me? Because that doesn't sound like me. What is your name? What is your name?
I sent a message, or maybe it didn't go through. I'll just double check and try send my numbers again.
What's your name? Offensive. Offense, I don't have you. I'm checking right now as we speak. I don't have you. Please, can you send it to me? Guys, I'm not going to take your numbers from this chat. Please send me, as per the introduction page, send me a WhatsApp to my number.
Okay, all right.
And please do me a favor, guys. Read your content before answering a question. Okay. I hate doing work twice. Okay. Anything else? Any other thoughts? Okay. One word, what did you take away from
Thank
this
you.
lecture? What did you take away from the lecture? Quickly.
Oxygen.
Oxygen, brilliant, we all need that. Thought-provoking, wonderful, inspirational. You're going to make amazing helpers. The more vulnerable you become, it's going to enhance your helping skills. Inviting, Damien, I like that. I hope it's invited you to a space of flourishing more. For those students who registered late, if you're struggling, pop me a private message in terms of what you need to catch up on. Do not suffer in silence. Eye-opening, community, yeah, vulnerability. Go away, Jacqueline, that's quite okay. Okay, guys. Grace, beautiful, beautiful. Joy, yes, yes. You're going to enter some ugly spaces, so it's important for you to know your own joy and your own positive emotion and have relationships that can fill you up, because being a helper means pouring ourselves out to somebody else, and you're going to need to find ways of refilling yourself again. Look after yourselves, take your vitamins, increase your nutrition, go for a walk on the beach. Do not only become a student. There is more to this life than studying. Okay. In the words of when I was a performer, I'm going to say thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, how to get out of here, and bravo. Oh my word, I have to take a picture. Hold on. Oh. Yay, oh, all the faces are gone. Yay. Catch you on social media. Bye-bye.